Welcome back to On Location. Today I'm at Yeck Park. We'll be spending the afternoon, possibly evening here. It's got a bunch of mixed prairies. It's got a lot of woodland. It's kind of just got everything interspersed. There's some meadows as well. And then we're going to see about any birds and warblers especially. This is a gorgeous park, honestly. I went here, it's my second visit by the way, but my first visit I got some shots of some gorgeous long exposure of the Sugarcreek that runs right through this whole entire park. This is a gorgeous park owned and operated by the Centerville, Washington Park District. And so I just want to give it a few little different factoids, I guess, about the park. So it's about 194 acres, which is decently sized, you know. You could definitely spend an entire day here if you wanted to. I know I have, at least, but the biodiversity is very large. Actually, the original name of it was Sugar Valley Park, but it was changed in 1996 to honor William Yeck. So it's a great place for, you know, hiking, bird watching, and you get some scenic views, you get some creek crossings along the Sugarcreek, which is always nice. Yeah, I definitely like this park. It's got a lot of diversity. You know, you get all your plants, your birds, you get some water. So it's like I said before, it's a gorgeous place for nature photography. I'm out here in the middle of one of the prairies over here, but the thing is it's very green and lush, which I really like, because I missed that about winter, but it's not quite fully developed and bloomed with a whole bunch of wildflowers. It's probably going to be another month or two before you really see that happening. But for now, I've been just hand-holding my big wildlife lens, my Tamron, and I've been actually getting some birds, a few common songbirds. There's some nest boxes erected on this path I'm on, right here in the middle of the prairie, and I've been seeing a lot of Eastern Bluebirds, male ones specifically, because they're a little more blue and colorful on their backs. And it looks like they're basically hunting, because I zoomed in real close on my LCD screen here, checking out the photos, and they have like little spiders in their mouths or their beaks. So it looks like they're delivering. I just keep seeing them go back to a couple of these nest boxes around me, and they're just kind of delivering them to there. So it is that time of the year still, nesting season. So even with the sort of harsh lighting, I'm still just making do with what I can. So for my settings, I have 1/1000th of a second, f6.3 and ISO 800. Just to compensate for the really faster shutter speed, because I'm shooting this handheld, I need to increase my ISO. And 800 for me is usually about the sweet spot. For the daylight kind of conditions like this, it also kind of exposes the histogram to the right, the whole exposure, which I find really helpful. So when I'm going back on the computer later on and doing post-processing, I can slightly decrease it. Another important thing with this specific lens that I have here, not all lenses have this, but there's a little feature called image stabilization. And so I basically set that on when I'm using it handheld, and that helps, just as it sounds, stabilize the image. So when you're shooting handheld. But another important thing about that is that you don't want it on when shooting with a tripod. Image stabilization basically reduces the vibrations in the camera when you're hand holding it. And I know for me, I have really shaky hands, so it's kind of hard to, you know, just keep it steady for the most part, unless if I'm bracing against kind of my shoulder, or maybe propping up like my knee like this, or just any other kind of technique like that. It's kind of funny, I promised myself I wouldn't be out here in the broad daylight, and I would kind of retreat more to the woodlands for now, where it's more shaded. But here I am right in the middle of it. But you know what, that's okay. So we're gonna just keep photographing, and actually the bluebird right behind me, so I'm gonna get him. It's just kind of amazing watching these Eastern Bluebirds hunt, and just the way they, you know, they pick all these spiders off the ground, and just the whole, you know, cycle of life, I guess, you know, the whole food chain. So from insects to birds to bigger birds to, you know, so on. It's pretty fascinating. In all honesty, I think Eastern Bluebirds are probably one of my favorite songbirds. They've been on the decline a lot in Ohio in recent decades, but I've been seeing them a lot coming up now, just because of all the man-made nest boxes here, which is it's been very helpful to continue the species survival. I've been on the meadow for quite a while now, but I was actually kind of getting to the corner here where it meets off to another trail, but once again I stopped because I saw tons of these Indigo Buntings that keep flying out to the middle and then flying out to all the trees behind me here, and I got some beautiful shots. I never even photographed them before. This is actually my second time I've seen them ever, but I got some gorgeous shots of them. They're very beautiful birds, and they keep singing back and forth, and got some of them flying around. Yeah, so far pretty productive, can't complain. Another thing I wanted to point out while I'm photographing these indigo buntings is that I find the autofocus is not really working so well in this situation, just because of all the foreground and background twigs and kind of branches, and it's just really kind of, it's hunting is what they call it. It's hunting for the focus and just keeps ranging back and forth, and it's not really truly finding it. So a lot of these images in this case are I'm using manual focus, and I'm finding that works a lot better, and the success rate's much higher. Geez, they're really loud, aren't they? It's just simply astounding how the lighting can just change from if you take a footstep over here to over there. So like in this case, behind me with all this open fields, you know, it's got all this harsh sunlight just coming down on it. And then if I turn around and I'm photographing some of the ruby crown kinglets and some of the different like kinds of song sparrows and field sparrows, and these trees over here behind me, figured I'd turn around, is that it's just like the lighting detail is so much harder in here, and it makes a lot of the more images underexposed, which I just find very fascinating. But that's the good thing about using, if you shoot in RAW, is that you can always, I mean, you're pretty much required to post-process and edit your photos to bring back all the light, the highlights, the shadow details, just everything. And not only that, but the larger file retains a lot more of the pixels, and they're basically like lossless. So what I'm going to do is probably some of these sparrow photos I was just mentioning, is I'm going to have to up the shadows later on when I'm editing them on the computer. Alright, so switching gears here, I'm in the woods at Yeck, but I found, I believe it is fire pink or a royal catchfly. Answer me down in the comments, make sure my identification is right. It's one of those two, I believe. But it's a new wildflower I haven't photographed yet, and I love the bright red of it. So I'm going to do it in macro style, of course. I even try some wide angle, so we're just going to see what happens here. One little tip I have for you, just as I'm thinking about it, is to not delete your images in your camera. Wait until you get them on a computer and you can enlarge them on a bigger screen or computer monitor. Because I've noticed, if you know, some images they look out of focus just because the screen size is basically the main reason why. You know, the sizes are just so drastically different. And so I found that if you wait until you get on the computer, you might find that some images that you thought were out of focus are sharp, or vice versa. And so I don't know, it's a nasty habit I had to break for a while, but now I'm figuring out more and more to always just wait until you get home, be patient. The only time I really see the reason to delete them is maybe if your memory card gets full, which, I mean, nowadays memory's so cheap, you should get a large enough memory card, you know, as is, and have it store up enough images. Alright, so next up, moving down the trail here, I actually found some very kind of light violet, very just very airy and nice, unlike the very bold red flowers up there. So I believe these are called great waterleaf, and they kind of sprout off in very clumps and clusters, and they just kind of have it one by one kind of surrounding the whole plant. They look very beautiful, so we're going to photograph them, of course. Alright, behind me here is the Sugarcreek, which intersects many different portions of the Yeck Park here. But I'm just at this one little section here. I'm not really feeling any long exposure today, just the lighting and just the harsh reflections it casts on the water. But I've definitely done better photo. They almost fall over. As far as creeks are concerned, it's a pretty gorgeous creek. It has lots of stones and like riprap. Jeez, I cannot step today. But yeah, as you can see, it just kind of winds around the whole entire park here. Alright, so right behind me is this Sugarcreek crossing where they have the giant stone slab. I think there's about 4 or 5, 6 of them. And I actually took the autumn of 2018, and I took one of my favorite long exposures I've ever taken. It's got this very wide angle, expansive look as you're looking way back where I'm standing here of the Sugarcreek. And then it's got all these different water swirls as the water flows down the creek. It's just got from front to back all the different elements that really compose a landscape or a water long exposure to water landscape. So it's got the stones and the way in the background that kind of anchor you, and as it makes a straight line across the frame horizontally. And it's got the water that kind of leads your eye down to the middle of the frame and then right out to the foreground, right where you're looking at. And not only that, but it's got the subtle browns and the blues of the water. It's got the really white swirls, and it's got the grays and browns of the stone slabs, and then the background has green foliage. And this is a particularly very cloudy, rainy kind of morning. But it's very beautiful, and yeah, a great moment nonetheless that luckily produced a great photograph as well. Alright, I'm here in McGuffey Meadow, and there's some beautiful, just kind of out in the center of these kind of marshy, wetland, kind of mini habitats, I guess, that's what I would call it at least. But you can hear red-winged blackbirds and all different kinds of sparrows flitting around, just the entire meadow in general. There's 2 hours left until sunset, so we might see if we can get a good landscape composition in, because the conditions look favorable. Looks like it's, the sun's going down, but looks like it's going to be, could be gorgeous, so we'll see. So I'm walking straight down the meadow here, and I found this red clover that's just a small little bunch that's just right here in the middle of the walking path. And so, doing macro of course, but I just wanted to make a little tip here is what I think is a good compositional trick is to, with wildflowers or any kind of plants like this, is to just really, before you even touch the camera, pre-visualize what you think the best way the flower or plant will look, photographically speaking. So, because photography in general is you're taking a 3-dimensional object or scene and you're trying to translate it to a 2-dimensional world, whether it's computer screen or it's just a flat print or anything like that. I immediately thought of doing a top down or maybe an angled one where it's just kind of either this or that. And the results were good, at least I think, using artificial flash to kind of fill in the light, but I didn't find them quite as satisfactory as I hoped. So I realized something, it kind of just clicked for me, is that the way these are vertically driven red clovers is that I decided to get straight down flat on the ground and photograph them straight on like this. And so that's what I did, and I'll show you the results here before and after. And I think, at least for me at least, I think the laying flat on the ground, just shooting it straight on, I think that's a much more effective photograph. But I'll let you decide, because I just feel like it accentuates the height, and the fact that you're kind of parallel and level with the red clover just makes, it makes it more intimate, I guess you call it intimate photograph. Alright, less than an hour of daylight. Right now I'm currently looking for a landscape sunset composition, but I just want to quickly just mention about how I noticed this my first visit when I came here to the Yeck. It's just how large it is. More than meets the eye. It's just got a lot of biodiversity, and it's once you actually go in the trails, and it just opens up all this whole different world of just different kinds of habitats, different natural features, the natural history, the human history, like the old structures like the sawmill, It's over here by the Sugarcreek across from it, and just stuff like, you know, just quite a variety of natural history and both natural features. And it's definitely a park that looks bigger when you view it on a map, but like once you go there, just like, you just don't expect it to be that big. I think one thing I've been learning over the years is just the days where it's weather-wise, it's very nice. It's blue skies, super sunny. It's, you know, it's like a perfect spring or summer day, right? But photographically speaking, it's very bland, and it's very harsh lighting. It's very dull lighting. It creates the unattractive shadows. It's just, list goes on and on. It blows out the highlights, stuff like that. I think the one thing I learned about days like that is simply the sun, because it's out all day, means you're more than likely going to have a really nice sunset. From the looks of it here, it looks like it very well might be. Still looking for composition. Man, I'm tired. Usually by the end of the day, I'm just so worn out. It's just hard enough trying to find something that looks decent for a photograph. I'm making my way back kind of towards the car, the parking lot. But at the same time looking for composition. Probably out in the open, like meadows and prairies out front here. But this could be really gorgeous, but we'll see. Alright guys, I really didn't find a composition for the sunset, unfortunately. There's just too much tree cover, and basically what I ended up settling on, which I really didn't show you video of, is like 2 or 3 pine trees, and just kind of like the skies and the sunset background, you know, behind it. But it's nothing really too special. I've done far better sunset shots than that. But anyways, this has been Bill Yeck Park. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something. I know I sure did. I learned of maybe a place for a future composition later on, which would be really nice. But earlier in the day, we still got amazing photos of some Eastern Bluebirds, some Indigo Buntings, which are my first photographs to take of them. It's really cool. Like I said, I learned more about the location for future trips. Yeah, basically I got a lot of good daylight photos, which I was very happy about. So that more than makes up for it. I'm not gonna let the sunset thing be a damper on the whole day. You know, still very productive and successful, at least for me. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Check out all my other future and past on-location videos down below in the channel. Subscribe, of course. Yep, thank you for watching. This is Bill Yeck Park. Thank you for exploring with me, and make sure to get out there. Thanks, guys.